Yet another race hate hoax. And this time it's from one of America's top comics, Hasan Minhaj, whose Netflix series, The Patriot Act, has won top awards. But now he's been caught out just making up stuff about how racist people have been to him. You know, as if there isn't enough racism around, so people just have to invent more, often to become a hero victim, like the actor Jussie Smollett, who famously hired two Nigerian brothers to attack him in Chicago and then claimed they were white Trump supporters. Racist, you know.
And I see the attacker masked, and he said, "This MAGA country," punches me right in the face. There was a second person involved who was kicking me in my back. Then I look down and I see that there's a rope around my neck.
Fake, 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 fake. In fact, there's so much fake racism claims around that an American professor actually wrote a book about the worst 100 or so of them called Hate Crime Hoax, How the Left is Selling a Fake Race War. And now along comes Hasan Minhaj, who has traded for years, really, on being picked on by racists in America as the son of Indian Muslims, picked on since he first went to school.
I fell in love in this country. 6 years old, Janice Malo. I saw her in the sandbox. I run up to her, first grade. I was like, "Janice, I love you." She's like, "You're the color of poop."
Trouble is, many of his victim stories have now been exposed as fake. No, he wasn't sent a sinister package of white powder that fell all over his toddler daughter. No, an FBI informant wasn't sent to his mosque and spied on him. No, he hadn't been dumped by a racist girl just before a school dance. No, police hadn't violently arrested him. All fake. Joining me from New York is filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami Horowitz, thank you for joining me. First of all, tell us what kind of guy is this Hasan Minhaj?
Hasan Minhaj is a pretty popular comedian here in the U.S. He had his own Netflix show. He's on The Daily Show. In fact, he was on the short list to become the new host of The Daily Show. And he was caught making up racial stories, persecutions that he went through because of his race. And, you know, the interesting thing about this was he didn't, after he was caught, admitted he was making up, totally out of whole cloth, these stories. There was no contrition. He actually doubled down and said, "Hey, this is my emotional truth." Now, whenever somebody says their emotional truth, what does that actually mean? It means they're lying, right? Read lie into this. That's exactly what it is. Total lies. He was actually defended by people, including Whoopi Goldberg on The View. And, you know, look, it's not just about a story about a comedian who exaggerates stories about his life, right? Comedians do this all the time. He is actually trying to stoke racial tension. That's exactly what he's doing. And in another consequence of that, he's trying to make himself a victim, because in our day and age, in our modern world, victimhood is a currency. And he was trying to get more of it. And I want to make clear, this is not just some victimless crime. This is a guy who's doing this because, and there are consequences for what he did. Look, the BLM riots happened because people were making up narratives and stories about what was going on in our country, right? So this is what it leads to ultimately if you have enough of these stories. Now, I'll leave you with some good news on this. Now, the good news on this is whenever you have people like Jussie Smollett, Hasan Minhaj, and Bubba from the NASCAR racing circuit who made things up about a noose, what that does, it actually creates, you have a better understanding that the world isn't actually as bad as it is, because we have to make things up. They don't actually exist in our real world in a large, massive way. You have to make up stories because you can't find stories anywhere else. So in a weird way, this is actually kind of good news for our country.
But these were really quite intricate stories, emotional truths or whatever. I mean, for example, you know, someone sending him white powder and he had to, you know, call the police and the whole thing. His daughter was in danger.
No.
Not
sending him, sending to his daughter. It poured all over his daughter. Yeah, there are a lot of details involved, which makes it so bizarre, or how a police officer beat him up. I mean, these are very specific, very scurrilous charges that he made, which we now know made up out of whole cloth.
Well, now Whoopi Goldberg, you said, defended him.
That's what we do. That's what we do. We tell stories and then we embellish them.
Army, does that work for you?
No, it definitely does not. That's the kind of thing that if I did that in what I do for a living, I wouldn't be doing anything for a living anymore. I would lose my job, and I should lose my job. If I was making things up to make a larger point, like particularly with my videos, no, that's something that you should and would lose your position. And that's, I think, the consequence he should be facing here as well. He's creating problems where problems don't exist in order for him to capitalize, like I said, for his personal edification of being a victim. And that's what I think he's doing. It's dangerous. It's terrible. It's scurrilous.
And the thing is, he's actually got a good story to tell. I mean, here's a guy from, well, his parents are migrants, who's made it pretty good in America, getting, has had Netflix shows, has had top awards. You would think he hasn't got much to complain about.
No, and not only does he not have anything to complain about, I think he has, look, here's a guy who, again, spends much of his professional time, right? If you watch his shows, if you watch his stand-up comedies, basically bashing the United States, right? Talking about how terrible this country is, a country that gave him such incredible opportunity. Look, he's in the position he's in because he lives here.
Right, that whole victim mentality, there's a whole, as you say, it wasn't just the Jussie Smollett thing or the guy that said, hey, look, there's a noose, because I'm black, which was just in my racing car garage when it was in the NASCAR thing. It was just a power cord that had been loosely tied up to get out of the way. So many fake stories, fake graffiti put up on university walls that turned out to be by black students. What is this industry of trying to invent racism? What's going on in America?
It's because it doesn't really exist in a major way. Look, I don't want to make it sound like there's no racism in our country. Of course, there are examples of racism that exist. But like I said, the reason why this is good news is people have to make these stories up because they can't find them really anywhere else, right? That's the takeaway that I have from this thing. It reminds me that one particular story of there was in Oakland. The Oakland mayor said, here, there's a bunch of places outdoor where you can work out. And she found a noose. And the mayor of Oakland said, look at this noose that we found, these workout equipment. Well, turns out it was a black man who put it there because he was using it for himself for a workout. He exposed it as being a lie and an untruth. Yet what did she do when she was confronted with the fact that it wasn't true? She doubled down and said, it doesn't matter if this case isn't true. It is important because it exemplifies how
emotional truth, another one.
Culture. Emotional truth, exactly. There you go. There you go.
Oh, emotional truths will get you in the end. Look, thank you so much, Dee, for your time.
Always a pleasure.